Welcome to Dig Deep, the mining podcast. In this podcast, we go deep into mining news, hot topics, and live interviews with mining professionals and leading figures in the mining industry. Introducing your host, Rob Tyson, founder and director of Mining International and Mining International Executive, a leading global mining recruitment and headhunting agency.
Hi, mining community. Welcome back to another episode of the Dig Deep, the mining podcast, the show that brings you the latest insights, thought leadership, and stories from across the mining industry. In today's episode, we're joined by Geoff McNamara, who's the Executive Director of Tesoro Gold, an ASX-listed company who are looking to advance its flagship Zorro Gold Project in Chile, which is home to 2 million ounces with an exploration target of up to 3 million ounces. They've recently raised $34 million, so we're going to discuss how the funds could be used, support from shareholders and new institutions, highlights from the recent scoping study, drilling plans across the regional targets, and a pathway to full permitting. So much more to uncover there. So Geoff, welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thanks, Rob, and appreciate the opportunity to come back on the show. Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I think you've been on a few times before. So anyone that's listening, do have a look at the previous episodes that we've recorded with Geoff. So as we always start these off, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your career and how your career's advanced to what it is today.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. So I graduated as a geologist. Actually went and worked with Western Mining back in the day before it was acquired by BHP. I did 15 years of operations, Australia, Asia, and Africa. Part of that time was with Lana International before it was acquired by Norilsk Ivanhoe Mines in Mongolia. And as we say in the industry, I went to the dark side. I joined Societe Generale's mining finance team in New York, then had a stint in Australia in private equity fund management in the mining space. Post that, I've helped establish a couple of companies, of which Tesoro Gold is one. I co-founded Tesoro along with Zeph Reeves and Sergio Uribe. And then we listed the company on the ASX in February of 2020. And as you touched on, we've made the first intrusive-related gold system discovery in Chile. So it's quite a unique business and story. And we do have 2 million ounces with an exploration target of 3 million ounces on Ternera alone, let alone our very large district scale land package of 750 square kilometres.
You mentioned obviously you moved to the dark side, and obviously we get a variety of people listening to this podcast. At what point made you decide that you were obviously in mining and then moved to the finance side? And I suppose has that helped shape your career? And would you advise people to potentially look at that kind of move if you are in operations to move to the finance side?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, Rob, and I think it's obviously a case by case scenario, but when you're working in operations, obviously as you move up through senior management, you get exposure to different elements of the business, both the financial side, the management side, and the project development side. So you naturally progress, you naturally learn different parts of the business and the industry. But fundamentally, whether you're an exploration geologist, a mine geologist, or a project manager, you need to understand the economics of projects, not only how to make discoveries like we have at Tesoro, but how to de-risk those projects, what makes them economically attractive, how to de-risk them, and how to bring the asset together so you can make it an economic project. So, yeah, it's part of a natural progression, I believe. I found that side of the business very interesting, along with the geological and operational side. And then fortuitously for me, through my network and relationships I had from many years ago when I played a bit of rugby, I was able to transition across to the financial side of the business. But I enjoy it because you're applying all those skills. So you're applying, those exploration skills, those mining operational skills, the development skills, as well as the equity capital markets, the project finance, the risk strategies around building a project, how to manage that risk not only operationally but financially. So I think it's a natural progression, as I mentioned, but also makes the job extremely interesting. And the great thing about mining is it's actually it's a small group of people that are very globally diverse, and it gives you great opportunities to work all over the world, which fortuitously for me I've been able to experience that.
Yeah, great. Why don't you just give us a snapshot of Tesoro Gold?
Yeah, so Tesoro Gold, we're ASX listed, market cap's currently about 130 million Australian dollars. As you mentioned, we've just raised 34 million Australian dollars. Our significant shareholders include Goldfields, Ruffer, Conwave, Ixos, Schroders joined the register, Perennial. So we're probably around 70% institutional now. I seeded the business with $1 million of my own money. As I mentioned, it's unique because it is the first intrusive-related gold system discovered in Chile. We believe it's a new gold district and has the potential to be a new gold province, being the first of its kind in country. 2 million ounces unconstrained resource. When you put that in a pit-optimized shell at $3,000 US gold price, you get 1.82 million ounces. And we recently released a scoping study which showed some very attractive economics, post-tax at a 7% discount rate using US 2,750 gold price. It generates in excess of 600 million NPV and a 50% IRR. The thing about the El Zorro project, specifically the Ternera deposit, is it's a nice, simple, conventional project. So it'll be a large open pit. It'll be processed by CIP. We'll be fully permitted in approximately 18 months, and we're not at altitude. So we're in the coastal region, 15 kilometres from the national highway, the Pan American Highway, and 15 kilometres from the Pacific Ocean. So we're typically operating at below 1,000 metres, around 700, 800 metres above sea level.
As you've just mentioned, you recently raised $34 million. How will the company utilise those funds?
Yeah, so look, we will move through from scoping study to pre-feasibility study. So we expect to complete a pre-feasibility study by mid-2026. From that point, we'll move to definitive feasibility study. We expect that to be completed by mid-2027. Obviously, at that point, we would be fully permitted, as I previously mentioned. But just as important is, the continuation of the drilling. So it's really a three-pronged process. Continue to grow the existing Ternera deposit, from 2 million ounces to that 3 million ounce exploration target is obviously an objective. Where we've now drilled Drone Hill, which is out to the west. We believe Drone Hill and Ternera are connected. If we can prove that theory, then it opens the doorway to something that's potentially significantly bigger than 3 million ounces, potentially double that. In parallel with that expansion of Ternera, which is open in all directions. So at the moment it's about 1.3 kilometres long, up to 600 metres wide and open at 600 metres deep. So a lot of that growth will just be stepping out north, south, east and west. As I mentioned, looking to link it to Drone Hill. The second parallel prong, as I mentioned, is continue to de-risk it by completing pre-feas, feasibility, fully permit it, lock in infrastructure. So we do have MOUs on water and on power. So the power is 20 kilometres away. The water is 30 kilometres away, so we expect to finalise those in the coming 12 months. And the third prong, parallel prong, is the regional exploration drilling. So this money will enable us to, at a minimum, double our rig count, so at least 4 rigs drilling 24/7 on the project, and with at least one of those rigs drilling our regional targets. So hopefully, we're confident that we'll potentially turn up another discovery within the next 12 months within that, very significant 570 square kilometre land package.
With this recent raise, did existing shareholders participate? And what new institutional investors have joined the register?
Yeah, so most of the large institutional investors participated. So as I mentioned, Ruffer, Conwave, Ixos, they all either slightly increased their holding or maintained their holding, as well as Collins Street, a well-known Australian fund. Goldfields, the corporate, probably about the 5th or 6th largest gold miner by market cap, who have the Salares Norte project, approximately 190 kilometres to the northeast. They didn't participate, so they'll be diluted down to around 13%. And as I touched on, so a series of new institutional investors, Schroeder, Perennial, the Smorgon family out of Australia. So, a lot of new institutional money coming into the register, which was great.
As you've alluded to, the Ternera deposit has a resource of 2 million ounces and an exploration target of 3 million ounces. Is there a potential to reach that 3 million and go beyond that?
Yeah, there's certainly potential to do that. I mean, there's a common saying in the game that the first 1 million ounces you find are the easiest 1 million ounces. So going from 2 to 3 won't be easy. But as I touched on, that the deposit is open in all directions. We have significant hits. In some instances, there's one particular hole with approximately 50 metres at a gram, around 500 metres south of the existing resource. We've now linked Ternera to Ternera East. So basically there's 3 parallel ridges. We've linked the central ridge Ternera with the eastern ridge Ternera East. There's significant potential out to the east to move that pit 500, 700 plus metres to the east. And I touched on Drone Hill, which is to the northwest. We've now drilled a series of holes on Drone Hill Ridge and in the valley. The best intercept we've had at Drone Hill was just under 2 metres at 77 grams per tonne. So, it's a well mineralised ridge, and we'd like to connect that up in the next 12 to 24 months. So, it's simple step out expansional drilling, link Drone Hill to Ternera, and there's certainly a pathway to well beyond 3 million ounces in a single deposit. And then obviously the second leg of that is to test the multiple regional targets that the team have worked up over the last 18 months. We have a 30 plus kilometre gold corridor. What I mean by that is outcropping anomalous gold along that entire 30 kilometres. In some areas, it's up to 5 kilometres wide. So we're very confident that within that 30 kilometre corridor, there are other deposits. So the challenge for us is to make another discovery in the medium term.
You've just recently released a scoping study. I just wonder if you can just give and share some of the highlights of that study with our audience.
Yeah, so at a $2,750 gold price, using a 7.5% discount rate post-tax, so tax in Chile, corporate tax is 27%. That generates over $650 million NPV. If you use, we use $3,300 as spot price. Obviously, gold has now gone through 3,400. Through $4,000 US. If you use 3,300, you're looking at an NPV of $1 billion US. Again, that's post-tax. The IRR at around that point's about 60%. The all-in sustaining cost is $1,216 So it's a highly competitive, all-in sustaining cost. The capital cost is $248 million, and that includes just over $40 million in pre-strip. There is potential over time to bring that pre-strip down and the 8-to-1 stripping ratio. But as I mentioned before, it's a very simple, conventional project, and it has real scale to grow well beyond what we've currently defined. So that capital of $248 million is assuming a 3 million tonne per annum CIP plant. My personal view is, when this project is built, it has the potential to be a 4 to 5 million tonne per annum plant. We're looking at a production profile of 110,000 plus ounces for over a decade. At the moment, the mine life is approximately 13 and a half years, but as I've alluded to, there's plenty of upside to extend that mine life and grow the scale of the project.
Is the company drilling any of its regional targets? And obviously, I know you're going to be drilling soon. So what's the exploration program looking like?
Yeah, so we've currently got 2 rigs on site operating 24/7. So one's at Ternera doing step out and infill. The second rig is drilling the first, or our highest priority target, which is to the north, and that target's called La Brea or Brea. So Brea has, the regional hallmarks of, I suppose, what we're looking for that's analogous to the Ternera discovery, i.e. it has a pluton or an intrusive circular feature sort of in the centre of the area we're drilling, and then it has multiple northwest, southeast cross-cutting structures. So we currently have a rig up there drilling. So hopefully in the next 6 weeks, we'll start seeing some of those results being released. The guys have done an excellent job up there, the operational team. Some nice high grades from our channels and rock chips. So really looking forward to seeing those initial reconnaissance drill holes, and then we'll sequentially test the remainder of our regional targets. Certainly prior to year end, we'll most likely be drilling Kitsoon and Calderillas as well.
Well, let me just give an indication as to when the company expects to be fully permitted.
Yeah, so we've commenced the permitting process. Specifically, I suppose the main part of that is the baseline study. So obviously that requires 12 months of data. So we're well advanced in that. We're around 6 months through that process. Obviously that's, a big component of the permitting. One of the things, again, one of the advantages and one of the things that makes this project unique is the location. Being at low altitude, close to the coast, there are no inhabitants on the property. You're in the Atacama Desert, the driest place on Earth. So there's very little vegetation, very little wildlife. All those things, will help the permitting process. So we expect to be fully permitted within 18 months from this point now. And as I mentioned, we're looking to lock in the infrastructure. So there is grid power approximately 20 kilometres away. We anticipate we'll be able to access that, and it'll cost us 12 cents a kilowatt hour. And we're also in discussions with a infrastructure provider who has a desalination plant 30 kilometres away. So bringing all those pieces together, infrastructure permitting, and we expect to have all that locked down within the next 18 months.
What lessons have you learned about obviously advancing a gold project in Chile, looking at obviously permitting, ESG, expectations to attracting institutional capital, maybe some advice for other explorers and developers that you might be able to help?
Yeah, look, there's always challenges. It doesn't matter which jurisdiction you're in, and there's always unique challenges to every jurisdiction. The great thing about Chile is it's a mining jurisdiction. So it's the world's largest producer of copper, the world's second largest producer of lithium, largest copper reserves globally. So has got a great mining history. There were challenges with the incumbent administration. So there were some proposed changes around permitting and ownership of assets, specifically in the copper and the lithium space. So that did cause some concern, some consternation for institutional and global investors. I think we've recently seen BHP outline its strategy to move towards copper as a pivot away from iron ore, for want of a better expression. A lot of the capital they're proposing to deploy is going into Chile. So I think that's given the market a lot of confidence. Gold's a bit of the sort of little brother of copper in Chile. There aren't as many gold projects, although there are 4 of the world's largest gold companies operating within the region we're in. So it does fly under the radar a bit. But I think you've always got to be conscious of the geopolitical climate you're in. There's an election coming up in November in Chile. Anticipate that there will be a change in government, and that'll be to a more centrist or right-leaning government. When it comes to permitting, again, I previously touched on we're in the Atacama Desert. There's some real advantages for us there without having any inhabitants, being in a very dry and arid environment. My simple thesis on looking at mining projects is you want things that are straightforward projects, ideally with infrastructure. And for a small company, a modest-sized company such as Tesoro, 140 million Australian dollar market cap, that infrastructure is key, and that's part of the reason we focused on the coastal Cordillera, which is the geological belt we're operating in. So again, it's the old keep it simple. Look for infrastructure, stay at low altitude, and engage with local communities and the regulators, both at a federal and state level. Our team on the ground in Chile has a bi-monthly meeting with the mines department. So it's always been a very productive relationship, not only with the regulators, but the local community. And obviously, most of the people we employ are Chilean and come from the local community. We have 3 towns, within an hour and a half's drive of us on paved highways. Chanarel to the north, Caldera, which is 45 minutes away. That's where the team resides. And then we've got the city of Culpeo, about 150 kilometres away, and that's a very sophisticated mining service centre, lots of contractors, skilled workforce there. So, go to areas where there's a history of mining and some of those, that gives you a clear advantage when you're looking to make discoveries and develop projects.
Just wondering if you can give us any updates on Tesoro's sister company, Culpeo Minerals. And especially on obviously the Lana Corina discovery that you've just briefly mentioned on.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. That's so the sister company of Tesoro, the gold company, Culpeo Minerals, also ASX-listed, a little more nascent, a bit earlier, but we've made a discovery at Lana Corina and intersected there, over 400 metres at 0.93% copper equivalent. So that's 90% copper, 10% moly in that intersect. So we'll be back drilling that discovery in the coming weeks. And we've actually just completed a program at La Florida. So La Florida is approximately 25 kilometres north of our Lana Corina discovery. First program ever drilled at La Florida and have had some excellent results. 6 metres, just over 6 metres at 1.3% copper from 10 metres. So very shallow, well above 1% mineralisation, which is very exciting. So we drilled 8 holes there, and 4 of those holes had intercepts of plus 1% copper. Holes 2 and 5 had some very good hits. Hole 5 had, the highest grade intercept was 4% copper So very exciting times there with that recent drilling. We're currently drilling some holes at another concession to the south, Pejadura and the Kiai area. So we'll do some drilling there. And then we'll go dip back to Lana, Corina. And what we're looking to test is the extension of Lana, Corina, which we've called Vista Montana. That target at Vista Montana, again, like our success at La Florida, has never been drilled. But from a geochemistry and geophysical perspective, the target there looks very compelling, actually more attractive than the original Lana Corina discovery. So yeah, lots happening with that company, lots of drilling, lots of news flow. So I'm fortunate to be involved with a team, Zeph Reeves and Sergio Arube and Ruben, a Peruvian who sort of heads up the geological team on the ground that's obviously made a discovery at Ternera, a second discovery at Lana Corina, and hopefully, with this next phase of drilling we do at Vista Montana, followed by another phase at La Florida. We may actually have 3 discoveries in Chile. So, the guys are doing a great job, and it's a privilege to be involved with them and the 2 companies.
Yeah. And just summarising, what's the outlook for the next sort of 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, so obviously, aggressive drilling both at Ternera for Tesoro and aggressive regional drilling. Look to make new discoveries, look to grow Ternera, ideally to that sort of 3 million ounces in the next 18 to 24 months. Look to make new discoveries, continue to de-risk the project with the pre-feasibility, then the definitive feasibility, and as we've discussed, be fully permitted in the next 18 months. So, lots happening at both Tesoro Gold and Culpeo Minerals, very active, and it appears that we're in a more buoyant market than we have been for the last 3 to 4 years. So that's also very encouraging.
Yeah, great. Geoff, thank you very much for your time again. Give us an update on Zorro Gold and Culpeo as well. And obviously tell us a little bit about Chile. And obviously with the gold price where it is, it's all looking good and rosy for all the gold explorers out there, and hopefully other commodities as well will follow shortly. If our audience wants to reach out to you, if they've got any questions, how can they go about doing that, and what social media platform channels are you on?
So I'm on LinkedIn, so that's an easy one. Just Geoff, Geoff McNamara, McNamara on LinkedIn. Drop me a note. That's probably the easiest way. Thanks, Rob. Really appreciate. Always good to be on the program. Appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to talking again soon.
Yeah, no worries. We include those in the show notes, the company's podcast, for easy access. So wish you well with the exploration program and further drilling. And perhaps you can come on next year to give us an update and hopefully give us some more information on discoveries that you may have made.
That'd be great. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed that episode. As always, appreciate your continued support. Please keep sharing these episodes far and wide, especially with the gold price. As we're recording, it's hit 4,000. So please share this amongst other gold bugs, as they call them, in our industry. So thank you for your continued support. So until next time, happy mining.
Thank you for listening. Remember to reach out to Rob via the show notes, and be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Until next time, happy mining, helping each other to improve the mining industry.